Welcome, Google. Thank you, guys. Born in Chicago, Illinois, Jay Chandrasekhar is a director, actor, writer, and comedian, best known for his cult classics Super Troopers, Club Dread, and Beer Fest. He has also directed for numerous popular TV shows, including Arrested Development, Community, Chuck, The Grinder, New Girl, and Psych. Currently, he's on tour promoting his new book, Mustache Shenanigans, as well as promoting his highly anticipated release of Super Troopers 2, set to launch later this year. Please welcome me in introducing Jay. Welcome, Jay. Welcome to Google.
Thank you very much.
How are you? So before the movies and before your comedy troupe Broken Lizard, you were actually born and raised here in Chicago. Did you grow up with a comedic upbringing?
I mean, you know, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in Hinsdale, and you know, my friend's brothers introduced us to Monty Python, the Holy Grail, and also introduced us to the Beatles, and. So that was sort of the beginning of you know, thinking about what a comedy group was all about. I remember listening to the Steve Martin album, Let's Get Small.
Okay.
And then I saw the Richard Pryor concert film live. It's Richard Pryor Live. It's the one in Long Beach. And that is, I think, the best recorded stand-up that's ever been put on film. When I was 15, my dad took me to the Chicago Theater to see Eddie Murphy in concert.
Wow.
It was the Delirious tour, and it was we sat in the very back row of the Chicago Theater, and I was like, "That's a job." I mean, wow. So that's sort of the beginnings for me.
And then you were a traditional. You went to Colgate and started up comedy. But when did you say, like, you know what, I'm gonna really push this comedy thing full time?
Well, I was at Colgate, and I had been a writer and I'd been an actor in high school and college. I'd been in a lot of plays. Like, am I supposed to talk to them or you?
You know what? To all of us, to everybody.
Okay.
Sure. To them.
I've been talking to you all after.
Yeah. We've been together. He did a Reddit AMA earlier today, and I was able to sit in on that. I kind of felt like a voyeur, kind of weird, but it was fun to watch from that side.
Thank you. It was fun for you to have you watching me.
Yes. Thank you, Jay.
I can't remember the question. Oh, yeah, I remember now. I was a writer, and I wasn't a writer. I was an actor in high school and college, and I was in a lot of plays, like Death of a Salesman. I was Tony in West Side Story, and you know, because in the theater it's all race-blind casting. But when I looked at the movie screens, I noticed that there were no Indians on them. And there were no Indians in TV. I mean, Ben Kingsley had won for Gandhi, but I didn't think they were going to, I didn't think they were going to make a Gandhi 2, right? And they weren't going to cast me in it, that's for sure. So I was not sure about show business. It seemed like a really stupid idea for an Indian guy. And so, also, I'd gotten a lot of laughs in plays that I had done in school, but your friends laughing at you is one thing, but I decided I'd give myself a test, which was to find out if I could make strangers laugh. And so when at Colgate, juniors, a lot of them go off to Europe or China or somewhere and study. I went and took a semester at Loyola University in Chicago, and I joined up with the Improv Olympic, which is
now IO.
IO, right? And I got into a beginning, it was like an improv class taught by this guy, Del Close, who's sort of the father of improv. Chris Farley was in that class at the time. He was in the highest group, and his shows with guys like Dave Koechner and that were poetic. I mean, they were amazing. My shows, which were with the beginning improvisers who had just signed up, were a grinding, awful 45 minutes of silence. I was not making strangers laugh in this improv. I mean, our group it was a nightmare. It was awful. And so I said, well, I'm not passing my test here. So I thought about, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write some stand-up jokes. So I wrote 10 minutes of stand-up jokes.
That's a lot of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, they said you have to do 10. So I signed up for an open mic, and I went to a place called the Matchstick, which I think was in Lincoln Park, and I went up on a Tuesday night. I, drank like 4 Tom Collins, which was inexplicably my drink at the time. I went into the awful bathroom of that place and, had a nerve shit, frankly. And then they called my name, and I went up and I did my 10 minutes of stand-up in about 5 minutes. I just raced through it. I'm like, I got to get off this stage. But I got laughs, and I got, strangers were laughing. And I'm like, okay. And so over the next semester, I did another 20 times I went up. And sometimes I would kill, and sometimes I would bomb, and it was the same exact jokes.
Yeah.
And I found out that the more, if I memorized every single line, every breath, every look, I would bomb. And if sometimes they'd be like, okay, you're going up third, and you're going up sixth, right? And they'd call me up second, and I'm like, and they'd already called you up, and you go up, usually I would kill. And I talked to my mom, and she's like, you're telling these jokes, and it should be like you're in a bar telling jokes to your friends. It needs to feel spontaneous. It's probably too canned when you're memorized. So, I mean, it's one of those few jobs where the more you prepare, the worse you are.
I felt that way with trying to pronounce your name today. It's like, I said in the mirror probably 100 times.
Yeah.
And the only time it mattered, I fumbled.
Yeah, you botched it.
Yeah.
You really botched it.
I should have just walked up and tried it.
Yeah.
So, so your book, Mustache Shenanigans, which it is available here. Google has subsidized the rate, so if anyone would like them, you can get them signed. I think there's an audiobook as well.
Yeah.
We don't sell the audiobook here, but you can get that online. In the book, you talk a lot about Super Troopers and the making of it. And one part that I found really interesting is that you actually had access with the original script to a lot of these production houses and Miramax, and Harvey Weinstein gave it a read and ultimately turned it down, and a series of turn downs. How did you guys feel with this? You knew you had something, but it was getting rejected all the time.
Bad. We made a film called Puddle Cruiser first, and we went to Sundance, and we had amazing screenings, like packed houses, huge laughs. People were like, who are these guys? And yet the film didn't sell. And eventually it did sell, but it didn't sell out of Sundance. And we were like, now what, right? So we wrote the script what happened was Miramax flirted with buying it. He flirted with buying it, and Harvey just was never in the room when we had a big screening. His staff is like, you have to buy this movie. And he goes, yeah, set up a screening. We'd set up a huge screening. It'd get huge laughs. He wouldn't show up. And finally, he saw it alone in his office, and he really liked it. So he called me in, and he said, this is a really good movie. I want to make a TV show out of it. And I'm like, why don't we just set up a screening, and you can watch it, and you can buy it? And he goes, okay, we'll set up a screening. So we set up a screening, and we did the screening on 3rd Street and 11th Avenue, which is right next to NYU, where there are a lot of film students. And so we have this big screening, and of course Harvey doesn't show up. And the screening kills. It's just great laughter. His executives are like, it's killing, you gotta come. So he comes and arrives at the end of the screening, which is when the question and answer with the audience is. The audience is loving the movie. They're like, this is a great movie. It's about people our age, and da-da-da. Then Harvey walks in, and one by one, these film students look back and see the king of independent film, and they all turn into basically Pauline Kael, and they're like, the framing wasn't great on that one shot, and they all start trashing the movie. They're like, I didn't buy the characters, and you're like, and he's like, sorry, kid. He goes, but let's try again on a new one. And so he goes, bring me the next script, I'll buy it, and we'll make that movie. we wrote Super Troopers. And we wrote like 10 drafts of this thing, and it got pretty damn good. And his executives were like, we're going to make this movie. We gave it to Harvey. He read it, and he said, you know, I don't know if it's funny. And he goes, but don't feel bad, because I usually can't tell when something's funny. And I'm like, okay. So he goes, but I'm going to let you have it back if you want to go make it somewhere else. He didn't have to do that, right? He could have.
They can table
most
it, right?
presidents of studios just sit on it. They're like, I'm not going to make it, but I don't want someone else to make it because then I'll look bad. So they usually just sit on it and just stick it in a vault, right? But he let me have it back because he liked me. So, and then we went around to everybody, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal. They said, we'll make it, right? But then they were going to make it for $5.5 million, but the producer then couldn't work out his pay, and it was over. It was out. We were greenlit, and then we were not. So then the Farrelly brothers called. They read it. They said, you know, this movie would work if it was set in the 70s. And we're like, okay. So we wrote a 70s version, and it was called Super Trooper 76. Then Fox read it. They're like, yeah, it's good, but you guys are going to star in it? I don't think so. And we're like, okay. So then nobody would finance it. Then we went to all the independent financiers, and we met with a bunch of people. One guy's like, I'll give you the money if Ben Affleck can play Thorny. And I'm like, I'm playing Thorny. He goes, not in this movie or not. And I'm like, so we really struck out. Nobody would finance the movie, basically because we weren't stars. And then, so Broken Lizard was basically about to break up. Like, we packed up our office. I was packing up my office, and I was going to move out to LA and just try to audition and see what happens, right? And I was packing my office and the phone rang, and it was my friend Cricket, who I went to college with, and she said, I hate to ask you, but my dad's a banker, and he's retiring, and he wants to write movie scripts, and you're the only guy who's sort of making movies, so I told him about you, and he wants to talk to you. And I said, okay, sure. So he called. I talked to him, and he goes, I wrote this script, and it's like a girl comedy road movie, and I'm wondering if you could take a read. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take a read. And he goes, actually, before I send it to you, why don't you send me a sample of your stuff so I just know, what your style is. And I'm like, oh, you're auditioning me to read your script. Okay, got it. So I send him Super Troopers, and I'm like, I hope he doesn't like it, because I don't want to read his damn script, right? And he calls me a week later, and he's like, this thing's pretty funny. And I said, oh, yeah, thanks. He goes, what's going on with it? And I'm like, well, nothing. Nothing's going on with it. We can't get any money to make it. He goes, can you make it for $1 million? And I said, yeah. And he said, all right, I'll give you $1 million. And I said, oh, okay. And 3 weeks later, we were casting the movie. And the movie sold for about $3.25 million at Sundance. And he's made 9 times his investment on that movie. And he was, nobody in show business thought it was a good bet. And this guy's like, okay. And then, there he goes.
So the movie went on to make about $80 million. Okay, well worth the investment there. When you guys, so Super Troopers 2 is coming out later this year, is that?
In the next 6 months.
In the next 6 months, okay. And you guys did something unique. You went the route of crowdfunding it. Now, with such a successful movie, you'd think these movie houses would be banging down your door to get in on this action.
You would think.
Fill me in. Why'd you go the route of crowdsourcing or crowdfunding?
The first film was a shock, I think, to the studio, and it continues to be a shock. I mean, they listed it. This was a number of years ago. It was probably 5, 6 years, like maybe 8 years ago. They listed it on why Fox had such a good year. It was like Star Wars, Super Troopers, and this was like 10 years after it came out. It was still just churning money for them, and so we were like, okay, there was so much money made that we had, and they of course were like, oh, it didn't really make that much, right? Yeah. And of course that's the dance in Hollywood. The studio's like, oh, where's the money? We don't know, right? And then you audit them, and then someone says, okay, this is how much it really made. You have to write them a check. That's how it works. So, and we all know it, and we're all fine with it. That's just what we do. So, there was a debate, there was an argument about how much the profit was, and so it was locked up in sort of a legal issue that went on for 4 or 5 years. And so it took a while, and out of the settlement, part of it was, okay, you can make the movie. But what they just, while that was happening, the entire film business became a business that only wanted to make movies where the main characters were in tights and wore capes, right? That was like the only kind of movie they want to make at all. And so when we went to ask them to make it, they said, look, we know the sequel will make money. We just don't know if it'll make enough money, right? And
yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like a story here is this. I had a deal at Warner Brothers, and I went into the president of Warner Brothers, and he said, what kind of movies are we going to make? And I said, he goes, I want to make $100 million comedies with any of these 2 stars, Johnny Depp, Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, and Will Ferrell. And that's the whole list. And I was like, okay. What if instead we make 5 $20 million movies, and we'll put some up-and-comers in it, like Broken Lizard, and whatever. We'll make some cheaper movies, and that'll be, we'll be able to make more of them, and we'll make them more quickly. And he goes, what's the most one of those $20 million movies can make? And I said, $100 million. That's that's $80 million profit. And he goes, that's a double. He goes, we need movies that will gross $250 to $400 million. We need grand slams. We need movies that will move the stock price. And I was like,
sounds like working at Google.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is that corporations bought movie companies because they wanted a fun little media piece. And then they saw what Iron Man did, and they saw what these really great superhero movies are doing, is making so much money that the whole industry is turned towards them only, right?
Yep.
But to the exclusion of, and I'll tell you, the reason why is because you can take an action film with a guy in tights and a cape, and it can play in China, it can play in India, it can play all over the world. The Chinese don't get what meow versus they don't get it. They're like, what? What's funny about that, right? And so the movies don't travel well there, and so there's a ceiling on what comedies can make. And as a result, they don't want to make them, right? So it's the same with, like, they don't make movies like Kramer versus Kramer. They don't make movies like Breaking Away, or like these smaller $20 to $50 million movies. They're like, no, put them in a cape and a tights, or we're out. And so with Super Troopers 2, I know they probably had a conversation where they're like, do you think we could put the Super Troopers in capes and make them Super Troopers? Like, I mean, I'm sure they had that conversation. But so they said, guys, go raise the money and make the movie, and we'll release it. Which, by the way, is a huge give to give us a release slot. It's amazing. But so we did that. We decided to go to a crowdfunding site, Indiegogo,
yep,
and see if we could raise money. And the risk was, if the audience was like, who cares? We don't want to see a sequel. It's been too long or whatever. Then the movie would have died, because the studio would have been like, God, nobody wants to see this, yeah, and nobody, we raised $2 million in 24 hours and 4.7 over 30 days, and after that, we were able to raise a bunch more money to make the film and to,
So it's done, everything is ready to launch?
It's done, the editing's done. We're now, the Eagles of death metal are my buddies, and they're recording the soundtrack.
All right.
There's the score.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, in the book, you go through a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of the anecdotes from each part of the movie. What we thought would be a lot of fun here is if we show some clips of the movie, and you kind of give us a little behind the scenes, what was going on, what people can expect from the book, and it'll be a lot of fun here. Following this, we'll have a live Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, there'll be a microphone over there. But Nick, if you can play the first clip.
1, 2, 3.
Do it.
Oh, go girlfriend. I'm your mother. Come on, Thorny, you're losing to the rookie. It's embarrassing. Come on, Rabbit. You can do it. Oh, Rabbit, he's killing you. I got Thorny in front by a lot. What's the matter? Your mama didn't teach you how to chug? Come on, Thorne. Come on, Thorne. Oh.
God damn it. I am all that is man every time. Finish it up. See, there you have it. You're doing it all wrong. You gotta open your throat, relax the jaw.
Don't forget to cook the bulls. And you're never gonna win with those thin little bird lips you got there. See, this guy's got these big old powerful lips. Am I correct, Thorne?
So much of my authority is derived from the power right here.
Hey, guys.
That was a real reaction, that wow. He was in trouble. If you look at that scene, there's one shot in there where there's a profile of us drinking, and you can see that the liquid in my bottle is moving very quickly because that is very thick iced tea. And so we shot that. That was the master. That was the wide, and we shot that first. And we looked at it. We're like, it doesn't look right. It looks like iced tea. And so we sent a production assistant out to buy real maple syrup, and he came back with like 8 bottles. I drank 2 full bottles. I made Eric drink about 3 bottles because I was like, I don't think we have it yet. You better go again, buddy. And it was something I will never do again. It was, I mean, you know, after we did it, and we finished the scene, we immediately went to the bathroom to try to throw it up, but it was too thick. So then we went into, it was lunch, and we went into my trailer because we were not feeling good. And we turned the light out, and we lay on the ground and just shivered for about 45 minutes. And I really thought I might die. You're like, I might die. And so then I had to, you know, he had the rest of the day off. I had to shoot a love scene, which I didn't even make it in the movie. But, and then afterwards, I went back. We were staying in a motel in near Poughkeepsie, and I went back to the motel. And I went to his room, and he came out of his room, and he goes, "Have you pooped yet?"
Oh, no.
And I said, "No, but I'm headed there now." And he goes, "There's a reason maple syrup is part of the master cleanse." And I'll spare you the gory details, but things came out of me that I don't remember ever going in. Like I shadowed like a fossilized bird, right? Like a stick with a fully intact leaf on it, right? I was like, oh, okay, I don't remember that. But it's not good. Never again. Never again.
All right, we don't need to bring the maple syrup out that I had planned.
Oh.
So, let's play the second clip.
Sorry about that.
All right, Meow. Hand over your license and registration. Your registration? Hurry up, Meow.
Sorry.
Is there something funny here, boy?
No.
Well, then why are you laughing, Mr. Larry Johnson? All right, Meow, where were we?
I'm sorry. Are you saying meow?
Am I saying meow?
I thought.
Don't think, boy. Meow, do you know how fast you were going? Meow, what is so damn funny?
I could have sworn you said meow.
Do I look like a cat to you, boy? Am I jumping around all nimbly-bimbly from tree to tree?
No.
Am I drinking milk from a saucer?
No.
Well, do you see me eating mice? Now, you stop laughing right now.
Yes.
Meow, I'm gonna have to give you a ticket on this.
But
No buts, Meow. That's the law. Not so funny, Meow, is it? Meow.
That scene, we were in we were writing that Super Troopers, and we were in. We had 5 of us were sleeping in a motel in Burbank because we didn't have much cash, and so And we were up kind of smoking and joking, and it was about 4:30 in the morning. And I have kind of a bad left ear from like ear infections as a kid. I was used to swim in this lake that was kind of dirty. And so the ear's not that great. And I heard somebody say something now, and I say, did you say meow? And then for the next hour, we riffed on sentences with meow replacing now. And then we just went to bed, right? And somebody wrote on a napkin, now equals meow. And 3 weeks later, we were in a writing meeting, and someone's like, we were trying to think of like a pullover, what could you do? And someone's like, remember that thing we did where the meow is the now? And we're like, oh yeah. And so we wrote up that little scene, and we were reading it. Once we finished the movie, we were reading it, and at one point, I was going to be the meow guy. I was going to play that. I was going to read, be in that scene. But the movie takes place in Vermont, and you're like, okay. The problem with the scene was we read it without a Southern accent, and it wasn't that funny. It was like just didn't land. And then when we put a Southern accent on it, it was really funny. And I'm like, I said I could buy a white Southerner in Vermont. I could buy that. But like an Indian guy with a Southern accent in Vermont, I was like, I just don't buy it, right? So I had Paul do it, and, lucky him,
So a lot of times these jokes, they just take off on their own. I went to see Dave Chappelle once, and someone yelled out, "I'm Rick James, bitch," and I could see him die a little. Do you ever get approached and yelled like meow, or can I go on a mustache ride, or?
Every 10 minutes. And because of my left ear, I often miss it. But yeah, people come up to me and they slip it in all the time, and I really do miss it, and then I'm like, oh, I got it. And the mustache rides, yeah, a lot of women ask me to give them mustache rides.
I've never had that happen, yeah, but
You've never had that happen?
not once. So let's play the third clip.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to Dippus. Can I take your order?
Give me a double bacon cheeseburger.
Double bacon cheeseburger. It's for a cop.
What the hell's that all about? You gonna spin it now?
No, I was just telling him that so he makes it good. Don't spit in that cop's burger.
Yeah, thanks. Give me a pie, apple.
Do you want me to hold the spit? Just kidding, Officer Farva. So, do you want to Dippus-size your meal for a quarter more?
Want me to punch-size your face for free?
Some male figure. I'm his dad. And stop with the whole transfer thing. Christ. You know what? I gotta go. Let's talk about this later, okay? Okay, bye.
Now don't give me any lip.
It's just a quarter, and look how much more you get.
I said no.
It's just 25 cents.
Hey, listen, guy. He doesn't want it.
I can handle this, Ramathorn. I don't want it.
Right. Beverage?
Give me a liter of cola.
A what?
A liter of cola.
Liter of cola? Do we make liter of cola?
Will you just order a large Farva?
I don't want a large farva. I want a goddamn liter of cola.
I don't know what that is.
Liter is French for give me some fucking cola before I break loose fucking lip.
All right, relax.
I have a lot to say about that scene. The kid who played the Dimpusburger guy is a guy named Charlie Finn, and I discovered him on the streets of Hollywood. I went to the Improv Olympic in Hollywood looking for guys that age to put into a pilot we were shooting.
Yep.
And I didn't really see anybody perform that day, but then I went outside and I saw this guy like smoking a cigarette, and he's like, meh, meh, meh. And he was just talking real funny, and I was like, and I went up to him and I'm like, are you an actor? And he goes, I guess. And I was like, you want to audition for an NBC pilot? He goes, okay. And he'd never been on an audition. He was just a funny guy who moved out to Hollywood. He was in the Improv Olympic, and we got him onto this NBC show, and he was hilarious. And so we cast him in this role, and it's probably my favorite performance in the movie. I love this guy. So the origin of this scene was, we used to go to Burger King in our, well, let me go back. Let me talk about something else. So McDonald's invented the notion of supersizing. I think it was while we were in college. They used to have just small, medium, large. Then they invented the supersize. And their employees were instructed to badger the customers until they upsold this thing, right? And so you'd go in, you're like, I'll have a large. You're like, you want to supersize it for a quarter more? And I'm like, no. They're like, it's just a quarter. I'm like, no. They're like, it's just a quarter. I mean, really? Just a quarter? And we became so frustrated by it that we wrote that scene into that. And then the leader, the Burger King in our town was managed by a guy who I'm certain was a Canadian, because he had small, medium, and leader. He did not have a large. And we would roll in like hungover on a Saturday afternoon and buy liters of iced tea. But I'm an American. I want a large iced tea. I do not want a liter. I do not go metric, right? And so we'd go in and I'd say, give me a large iced tea or a large Coke. And he instructed his workers to say, we don't have larges, we only have liters. And so I'd sit there at the speaker and be like, give me a large. And he's like, we don't have large, just a liter. And we would go at it, and finally I'm like, fine, give me a liter. And this Canadian bastard just won this. He won, and we got him back.
So, all right, thank you very much for that. We're going to open it up to Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, there is a microphone over there. And not all at once, guys.
Hey there. So first off, go Gate. So fellow Colgate alum, and I've always wondered this and been asked this a lot, because coming from Chicago, people used to ask why you would end up in upstate New York to me, and I'm wondering for you, who I would assume at the time you probably had a sense of the dramatic arts is where you wanted to go, and obviously New York and NYU or Northwestern or USC might have seemed like more logical solutions for that. How did you end up at a small liberal arts school in upstate New York versus sort of a more traditional dramatic program?
How I ended up at Colgate, which ended up shaping my whole life, is one of the great flukes in my story. Colgate, for those of you who don't know, is it's got 2,750 students. It's like 3.5 hours north of New York City. It's a beautiful, it's a great school. It's like number 19 in the country, and it's surrounded by farmland, basically. And but it's a beautiful place. It wins the most beautiful campus in the country almost every year. And so, I in high school had a very high opinion of myself. Right? I really, while I didn't have the grades to get into the Ivy League, I thought they're going to let me in anyway, right? And so I applied to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Dartmouth. I applied to Northwestern and Brown, and that's it, right? And I was like, yeah. And my grade point average was B+, right? And I'm like, okay, but they're gonna love my personality, and they're gonna love I'm gonna get it. And so I started to second guess myself, late in January. I'm a little worried. What happens if I don't get in anywhere? And I'm walking down the hallway, and I happen to run into my girlfriend at the time, and I said, I'm a little nervous about where I applied to schools. I said, do you have any applications in your locker? And she goes, yeah, I think I do. And so we go to her locker, and she pulls out one for Boston College, Boston University, and Colgate. And I look at them, and I'm like, okay, my essay can fit these. And so I ran around to my teachers. I'm like, you got to send it out today. And they sent out recommendations. The 3 schools I got into were Boston College, Boston University, and Colgate. And, look, with all of the A+ Indians that these schools had to sift through, they certainly didn't want this junky old B+ Indian, right? I mean, they're like, why would we take you, right? B+ Indian, right? And so then I looked at the rankings, and I'm like, okay, Colgate's higher than these other two, I'll go there. And so that's why I went to Colgate. And it's the greatest place on earth. I mean, I loved that place more than I only cry about once a decade. Like I don't know, I have very dry tear ducts. And I wept at the bar on the last night when I had to leave there because I loved it. It's still my favorite place.
Can I ask which bar?
The Jug.
Yeah, there we
There
go.
are two bars in town, the Jug and the Back
I was like,
Bacon.
is that or the bacon? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm curious what kind of response you got from patrol men and women and the police community. Did they like it? Did you capture it? Were they offended? Like, what were some of the best responses?
We thought we would be frequently arrested after we made that film. And it was sort of, we didn't really hear about anything much until we made Beer Fest. And, you know, we were down in Albuquerque and we were making Beer Fest, and to try to get in character, we basically had a beer pong party every night. And we were playing a lot of beer pong. And we were loud, right? So we had these huge parties, and on a Tuesday night, there was a noise complaint. And there's a knock on the door, I open the door, and it's two cops, right? And I was like, look, I've always been very polite to cops. And so I'm like, hey guys, so sorry, we're just, my apologies. And the cop looks at me, and then he looks at his partner, and he goes, you have a good evening, sir. And they turn around and walk away. And I'm like, okay. And so I close the door, and I'm like, I don't know what, they didn't say anything. I said, they just left. And I'm like, okay. 10 minutes later, I open the door again, another knock. It's 7 cops, right? And the same guy goes, can we come in and party with you, sir? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like leading the pack. I'm like, hide the bongs. And they stayed for like half an hour. And, and we just drank and raged and had a great time. And it was then that I realized that what they like about this movie is that they're, mostly in Hollywood, we have like crooked cops and evil cops, or, really good cops who are just super nice. We made like human cops, I think, to them. They feel human in our film, and they feel like they are bored sometimes. They do mess around with people sometimes. I mean, now it has become hard to get a ticket. Like we speed, they pull us over, they walk up, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, sir, are you in a hurry? Do you need an escort somewhere? Like Kevin Effernan he played Farva. We were throwing out the first pitch in San Diego at Qualcomm Stadium, and he was late, so he was driving 90 down the 405, gets pulled over, the cop says, oh my God, Farva, and he goes, I'm throwing out the first pitch, he goes, follow me. They drive 105 down to the stadium. Kevin doesn't know where to park. The cop's like, just stick it right there. And he gets out, and each cop is like, I got him, and they're walking him all the way into the mound. It's amazing, right? It's amazing.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
I was wondering if there are any actual plans to release Potfest, or was that just a fun trailer with Willie Nelson?
They don't have a drug testing policy here? Because test this guy.
We actually don't have a very strict drug testing policy.
Well, at the end of Beer Fest, there's a joke about Potfest, which was a real joke. I mean, we were really kidding. But then there's so many people who keep asking us about making Potfest. And then I've got to know a lot of the famous stoners, gotten to know, like, Willie, of course, wants to do it. I met Snoop, he wants to do it. Cheech and Chong both want to do it. Doug Benson wants to do it. So I think we've written about 40 or 50 pages of it, but then, we just sort of get high and lose our trust. And if we can ever kind of focus and get it done, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Hey, so I thought it was really interesting how you talked about Hollywood wanting to do superhero movies, and I think those tend to lend themselves to sequels that are like, all right. And I'm a huge Super Troopers fan. Have you got a lot of flack about that? Of like, all right, we're gonna do a sequel, and I hope it doesn't ruin the first one or anything like that?
Yeah. From ourselves, because we have the same feelings you do about certain sequels. We're like, should we risk ruining it? yeah, we will. But ultimately, what we decided was, I told everybody, it's been a while, so I said, I'll only shoot the movie if we're exactly the same weight, right? So people will be able to say, you look older, but you don't look fatter and older, right? I didn't want people to be able to say you look fatter, too. So everybody got down to weight, and I also thought, let's make the mustaches bigger. That'll help, too. So my mustache is like twice the size. Ultimately, we really wanted to just make another one. Like NYPD Blue made 200 episodes. Like, we can make 2 of these damn things, right? I feel like the key is just to keep the tone the same. And I know that tone. I rewatched the movie before I shot it, and I'm like, okay, tough, funny, try to make it smart, make all the jokes make sense, and keep all the jokes within a certain bandwidth, right? Everything has to feel like it's possible. Everything has to feel like it's real, and cast good actors who know their way around a joke. And I was worried about it though, but I mean, we've now shown it to about 500 people in California, 3 or 4, 200-person screenings, and the response has been like incredibly good. So, is it better than this one? Probably not. I mean, I think this movie caught a certain wave that you can't necessarily recreate, but it has a ton of jokes in it. We wrote 30 drafts. We really worked hard on it, and I think you'll be able to play the movies back to back and be like, yeah, they're both good.
That's awesome. And did you get pushed for any cameos? Speaking of casting and things like that, or were people desperate to kind of get their hands on it?
Yeah, I mean, I was making a TV show with Rob Lowe called The Grinder, and we got along really well. He's like a really funny guy. He's like a comic trapped in a leading man's body, right? He's just a funny guy. And so I shot like 4 of those, and then the last one we were in his trailer, kind of whatever. He smokes cigars, and I had a part for him, and I just said, hey. Any chance you'd consider being in Super Troopers? He goes, I'm in. I don't even have to read the script. I'm in. And I was like, okay, great. So, like, everybody we asked said yes. And so we've got some fun people in it.
Awesome.
People that fit the roles, though. Like, we don't just stick famous people in movies because it just doesn't work. The reason that movie is what it is because we picked a tone and we stuck to the tone. We don't just put any joke in. It has to fit the tone. And the second movie is the same. Every actor fits a tone, every joke fits a tone.
Thank you.
So, Jay, thank you very much for coming into Google. We really appreciate you coming here. For everyone else, the book is available outside, Mustache Shenanigans, and he'll be sticking around to take some photos and some autographs. Thanks again, Jay.
Thanks. Appreciate it.